Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. No matter what time of day or night, I'm still just as happy you stopped by my channel. Thank you ever so much. I am Reverend Paul J. Bern. I'm the online pastor of this little online faith-based community known as the Social Gospel Worship and Learning Center based in Atlanta, Georgia. Sending blog posts and videos around the world. This is an online only church. We do not have a building. We do not have any denominations here, no religion at all to speak of in the normal sense of the word. But what this is, what we do here is we teach about nothing but Jesus Christ, crucified, died, and resurrected on the morning of the third day, and who even now is seated at his Father's right hand, waiting for that cue from his dad to come and take us home. And someday soon take us home he shall. You can rest assured about that. For my first of two Christmas messages for the month of December, this one's going to be titled Happy Holidays to the Lonely and to All the Orphans. First of all, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, or Happy New Year to all the orphans and the widows, wherever you may be. You see, I was once an orphan myself, having started out in life as an unwanted foster kid. There are a lot of us out there. We're called, these days at my age, we're called elder orphans. People who have outlived most, if not all, of their relatives. People who are estranged from their families, or who aged out of the foster care system like I did as a teenager. According to an article in the Chicago Tribune that actually dates back to last month, there are 22.6 million people in the USA alone who currently have this dubious distinction of having no biological relatives. 22.5 million folks who ain't got nobody. And there is nothing any of us can do about it. It's a harsh reality, yeah. But sometimes life can be very harsh indeed. You either learn to roll with the punches, ducking and dodging as best as you can, or you get the living daylights beat out of you. It's all up to you. Which do you choose? I know this is not a particularly nice thing to say, nor is it a particularly nice way to say it, but it's the truth. And I love truth. Now, how I found out. I was told as a child that I was adopted, only to find out differently 2 decades later. When I was in my 20s, I needed to copy my birth certificate. But when it arrived in the mail, I was in for a big surprise. According to my birth certificate, I had been born in a private home and then transported to a hospital. When I confronted my mom, my foster mom actually, about this, and demanded to know the identity of my birth mother, she refused, stating quite emphatically that she and her late husband, my foster dad, had died just after my 12th birthday, you know. They had spent their hard-earned money on me, and it was none of my business who my real parents were, as if I had no business asking in the first place. Now, you talk about having some serious family problems, this one surely takes the cake. I have tried, or had tried, many different things without success. to alleviate my situation. But the woman who raised me, together with everyone on her side of the family, and myself, were permanently and understandably estranged. How do I cope with all this? How could anybody else, with even one out of all the things I just mentioned? I tried to find out my original identity, but none of the people who lived in the house that I was evidently born in were still alive by the time I got around to checking. Moreover, the doctor who had delivered me at there was also deceased. I think it was just a paramedic. But anyway, I registered with the government database in Ohio, the state where I was born, just in case I had any siblings trying to find me, but I never heard back from anybody. So I have drifted through life mostly alone. I have tried marriage twice, but I was still alone in the drift, despite being a head of household. My two marriages combined lasted a little over 3 years. So much for married life. It's just not for me. The solution, though, to my situation has been my faith in Christ. In fact, my faith in the risen Savior is the only thing that has consistently worked for me over the years. That, and I published a book about my experiences in the form of a memoir back in 2014. It's called Soul Survivor. It's still in print, in digital or an audio format, from Amazon. The audio version is on audible.com. Amazon Audible is where you can find that one. Soul Survivor. At any rate, writing and publishing that book was very therapeutic for me. It helped me get rid of a lot of old baggage of the emotional kind. So I wrote this piece first back in 2016 and again today, updating it some to see how many others I can reach out to and help this holiday season. If this is you, please reply to me in the comments below. I want to hear from you. If you're feeling alone, outcast, or vilified, or worse, you're not alone after all. But I'm not going to limit this just to the orphans who aged out of the foster care system. If you are older, like myself, but you have no living biological family left alive, I would include you and all others in similar situations too, such as people who came from single-parent homes. Now, on the other hand, if you know your parents and are on good terms with them, and even if you're not, you are already ahead of a lot of people in terms of having a family support system. If you have ever received an inheritance from a relative, you're doing better than many as well. Most of us just aren't that lucky. In that case, I would advise that individual or family to use that inheritance, hypothetical inheritance, to start a small business. In an economic climate where meaningful jobs are so hard to come by, it makes so much more sense to simply hire yourself. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. It worked for me, it could work for you. There will be anniversaries in cases like this, cases like mine, and yours, whoever you are out there. But there will be few birthdays, if any. There are a surprising number of advantages to being an elder orphan. First of all, I have almost nobody to buy Christmas gifts for, excluding a few friends from the church where I play keyboards every Sunday. That's a major money and time saver for me and others like me. There is no one to cook for but myself. I know exactly what I want. I want to know how it turns out before I ever start cooking it. So everything I make on the stove or in the oven turns out perfect nearly every time. There are no one's birthdays to remember anymore either. There will likely be at least a few anniversaries, yeah, but no more birthdays. The advantages of being retired. I get up when I want, usually between 8 and 9 a.m. And I go to sleep when I want, usually by 11 p.m. or so, some nights earlier than that. I know that's over 9 hours of sleep per night, but since I survived a stroke back in 2006, my body seems to need 9 hours of sleep now. I sometimes get up to an early alarm, but I can no longer do that on a daily basis. When I do get up to an early alarm, it's usually because I have a medical appointment, or because it's a church day or a grocery day. Another big advantage to being a senior orphan is the independence. When you go through life without any family as I have, you wind up being a fiercely independent person, as I am. No one is nagging me about anything. Nobody bosses me around, and I don't have to take any crap from anybody either. What are the advantages, you see? So, if you are depressed this holiday season, or if you are lonely beyond words, let Christ help you. Yes, the therapist you didn't know you had, Jesus Christ. I've always functioned much better and had much happier and been much happier when I was self-employed. The workers of the 21st century know better than to rely on the corporate world for their sustenance. Trying to work for somebody else always was a chore, and I never seemed to fit in into the office work environment no matter how hard I tried anyhow. Orphans are like that, you know. A lot of business owners were orphans in their childhoods. Unfortunately, so are a lot of homeless people. And so are many of those who commit suicide, for God's sake. They have no one to help them through the pain of what they are experiencing. No one to help ease their anguish, and seemingly no one who can relate to their plight. Without a higher power to turn to, and without the knowledge or faith in Jesus the healer, they simply give up. Too exhausted to go on, or so they think. This can happen in any number of ways. For example, here in Atlanta, where I live, there are car wrecks involving wrong-way drivers on the interstate highways ever so often. According to the CDC here in Atlanta, and corroborated by the Georgia State Highway Patrol, at least half of these head-on crashes from these wrong-way drivers turn out to be suicides in disguise. How sad. And yet I continue to point out that there are more advantages to being alone. Better to be alone than to have a family that you can't stand, or they can't stand you for whatever their reason. I would urge anyone, though, anybody who is experiencing suicidal thoughts, if it really has gotten to that point, to call the National Suicide Hotline at, grab a pen and paper here, at 866 903 3787. That number once again, the Suicide Hotline, National Hotline, 866 903 3787. Seriously, do it right now if this is you. You can come back and view the rest of this video or read the rest of this blog later. Never mind that. But for everybody else, I wish to say it's not so bad to be stuck being alone. Being alone and independent means you are free from many of the encumbrances of everyday life, especially family issues. Think about how much money you're saving. Another advantage to being an elder orphan is not having a dangerous ex-spouse obtain restraining orders against to protect yourself and your kids. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And so, at the end of the day, people, solitude equals freedom. Survivors of adoptions gone wrong, foster care and or spousal or parental abuse do not get to skate away from such circumstances without a hefty toll being taken by life and that of living it. It is common for survivors to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, as I do. Trauma, especially during childhood, can be a trigger for mental illness, and I am a survivor myself of a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. But mental illness is something that can be managed with certain medications and with certain therapies, and I am happy to report that I am in my 17th year of recovery now, and I never so much as looked back even once. Nor do I regret being an elder orphan. I relish my independence. I go at my own pace, and I live the simple life these days. It's far from being a really prosperous one, but I've made a lot of money before and could do so again given the right opportunity. I have learned over the years that riches tend to be a trap and a headache. The more you got, the harder it is to hang on to it. But at the end of the day, for those of us who are the survivor of survivors such as myself, the term orphaned elder has a nice ring to it. To me, at least, the word orphan is the sound of freedom. Y'all enjoy your holidays, everybody. If you like this, give me a like and a share and a subscribe, or a couple of shares if you care to. I'd really appreciate it. You click that little bell towards the bottom of your screen there, or that black oval if that's what you're seeing, to subscribe. You'll get a video dropped into your email, into your inbox every time one comes out. If you want to support this ministry without having to tithe 10% of your income, I never ask people for that. You can subscribe to the blog, which besides the blog, it's bi-weekly, and that, there are 2 videos per week at the minimum. You can also have access to my archives, which are considerable. They go back years. And you'll have access to 18,000 other writers when you sign up to Medium. You get all that for $5 a month, or $50 a year. That works out to about 16 cents a day. So go to medium.com/ampersand greatest servant 62/subscribe. One more time, medium.com/ampersand greatest servant 62/subscribe. Okay, that's how you take care of that. We're also a registered nonprofit on PayPal. If you'd like to make a donation, it would be appreciated if you can spare it. Go to PayPal's homepage and under sending money, it'll ask for the email address. That email address is very similar to the one for Medium. It's greatestservant62@gmail.com. That's all one word, all lowercase, greatestservant62@gmail. That's all there is to that. Donate on Stripe if you prefer. Go to Stripe's homepage at stripe.com and type in Social Gospel Worship and Learning Center into the search box at the top of the page. Just click on it or press your enter key on your keyboard and it just pops right up there. Send off as much as you can possibly afford to. It would be very much appreciated. And one thing before I leave, I want to thank each and every one of you for the privilege of your time. Your viewership is so very much appreciated. And having said all that, I have nothing more to say for right now. So everybody, be blessed. Yes, I said be blessed. In Jesus' mighty name.